Welcome to my PowerShell session. My name is LakshmiNarayana. So, as an introduction to PowerShell, let's see the definition, history, and paradigm of PowerShell. So, the definition is it is a task automation and configuration management framework from Microsoft, consisting of a command line shell and associated scripting language built on the .NET framework. So PowerShell is written in .NET Framework, as you can see. So it provides a shell to run the commands, PowerShell commands, and you can see the output in the shell and also then convert the commands into a script file that can be run later on. And you can start adding some logic to your PowerShell script so that it can handle multiple scenarios. That's about PowerShell introduction. And if you have a lower version of PowerShell and you want to install a higher version of PowerShell, you have to look for the Windows management framework, download it according to your system requirements, and install it on your Windows computer. And then you should be able to use it probably after a computer restart. So the brief history of PowerShell. PowerShell was released in November 14, 2006 as V1, probably the time when we were using Windows XP or other versions of Windows, maybe Windows 7, Windows Vista were around at that time. It was released by default in some of the Windows 7 operating systems earlier. So currently we have the stable release at 7.0.3 in July 2020. As you can see, there's quite a lot of development going on in PowerShell domain. And also we have the preview release of 7.1.0, which was released on July. And there was a big shift in PowerShell paradigm that was in August 18, 2016. PowerShell core was formally announced as open source by Microsoft. After that, there is a huge opportunity for all developers around the world who can contribute to PowerShell community, and PowerShell has developed a strong community, and it's day by day it's growing, and it's supporting a lot of tasks that can be easily performed. And also PowerShell supports in Linux operating system as well. I do not have much information about that. If somebody wants, they can still use the PowerShell concepts and they can use it on Linux. So all about PowerShell. PowerShell enables you to become a smart IT administrator. You can do things quite easily that you may have to spend hours doing in graphical user interface. You can run a few PowerShell commandlets and you can achieve the same task in very less time. You can automate a lot of things related to Active Directory, like Active Directory user account creation, or maybe you want to pull some information from Active Directory and provide it to the management. And then you can also perform maintenance tasks. There might be some scheduled maintenance tasks you want to perform, like disabling user accounts or some other tasks that can be achieved using PowerShell. You can do Microsoft Exchange mailbox management. You can also do SCCM automation. SCCM is a System Center Configuration Management, and it is currently called as Configuration Management. And you can manage the computer operating system configurations using PowerShell commands, or you can use PowerShell DSC, that is desired state configuration, in order to manage um, the configuration of your servers. You can also use PowerShell to inventory all the devices or computers in your environment which are connected to Active Directory, and it can be very helpful for you to generate a lot of reports, and it can help the management to management in decision making purposes. You can also pull real-time information data from remote machines using PowerShell commandlets, and they can be converted to scripts that can be run on whenever you need, or you can schedule them in schedule task, and you can write it to a database, or you can send it to your email address through an email, and so on. PowerShell is a standard implemented by Microsoft in Windows. Hence, there are a lot of PowerShell modules which are available for many products like Exchange, SharePoint, or maybe SCCM, even for VMware and Citrix. Okay, that's about PowerShell introduction and what you can do with PowerShell. This is just a tip of an iceberg. There are a lot of other things that you can do with PowerShell. So let's see what is PowerShell. PowerShell, whenever you create a variable, the variable will be considered as a PowerShell. So if you are not from a programming background, or if you don't know what is a variable, don't worry, I'm going to explain it later. So whenever we say an object consists of some properties and methods. Uh, To simplify, I will give you an example of a directory or a folder. So the properties of a folder would be like some of the properties are name, size, and path of the directory. So your directory will have a name. It has a size if there is something stored, or it's a zero. The size would be zero, or it will be the directory has a path in your computer file system. And then as an example, you can take the methods like some actions that you can perform on these objects. Like you can rename the directory, or you can move the directory, or you can delete the directory, etc. So that's how PowerShell considers each and everything as an object. So if you're from an object-oriented programming background, you will be able to easily understand what objects are. As we move on, you will understand why objects are very important in PowerShell. Whenever I'm running some commands, I will show you how objects are, how we can utilize the objects, and we can work on them. And also, whenever you run a command, you have to think that it is going to return an object, or it is going to output an object, and we can work on that object further. So CMDLEts are pronounced as Commandlets. These are the name. This is the name given to PowerShell commands by Microsoft. So when somebody says Commandlet, that means it refers to a PowerShell command. So there is a standard syntax followed by PowerShell commandlets that will be in verb hyphen noun syntax, and then you have a space, and then you have a dash, and then you have an argument. And then for an argument, you will supply um, this should be parameter, and this here should be the argument value. So you have one parameter, and then you have a second parameter, and then you pass it an argument. So don't worry about it, I am going to explain it later. So the PowerShell commandlets look like you will start seeing it when you start running commands. The commandlets would look like get something, set something, new something, remove something, rename something, stop something, import something, and export something, and so on. There are a lot of verbs supported. And as an examples, I have given some of the commandlets like get child item, new item, remove item, export CSV, import CSV, convert to HTML, read host, write output, out file, copy item, etc. Okay. Uh, Further to explain the commandlets, I have already told you it will follow a verb noun syntax, and then you have parameters. Then you will pass the parameter name 1, then argument value, parameter name 2, argument value, and so on. You can pass n number of parameters which are supported by the particular command you are running. Example, here you can see new item commandlet. The name I'm going to pass a parameter name to this commandlet. The name will be name of a text file that I'm going to create. What this commandlet does is it creates a file or a folder depending on the parameter that we are passing to the commandlet. Let me show you an example. So let me go to my desktop and let me make a new directory there. So it has created a new directory, and I will cd to that directory, and dir lists the commands, and cls is to clear the screen. So let's create that file using the new item commandlet. And the parameter, whenever you are passing a parameter, first you type a hyphen or a dash, and then just type one letter or a couple of letters and then press tab. PowerShell has IntelliSense, and it will automatically recognize how to how to um, convert that to a parameter. So I have not shown how I launch this window. You can go to start and you can type PowerShell, and you can click on this PowerShell icon and it launches the PowerShell. Desktop, PowerShell session. Yes. Okay. New item and name PowerShell test.txt. I'm going to specify the extension so that I can recognize it later on. So I will create a new directory, and inside that I'm going to save this file. That is what path denotes. The path parameters, I'm supplying an argument. It denotes that it should store inside this directory. But we don't have this directory inside this PowerShell session directory. So it's not going to work now in this way. But again, there's one more parameter we have to pass, is the type. The type path parameter, it has some predefined values. If you press Control and space bar together, you will see the options which are supported by the particular parameter. So here you can see the options available are file, directory, symbolic link, junction, and hard link. So I'm going to use the file option here. I selected the file option and I pressed space. And let me press enter and show you the error message. So it says that could not find the part of the path. That means it's not able, because this directory is not available. Directory not found exception is thrown to us. So we have to create the directory. Or else what we can do is we can use the force switch A switch in PowerShell is whenever you are passing passing a parameter which does not need a value, that is called as a switch parameter. So providing the switch parameter is like saying PowerShell to use that as a true value. So you can consider it as a true value when it is not provided, like when force is not provided, that means force is false. And when you provide the force parameter, force is true. So now we can see using the force parameter, we have created that file. Now if I do dir, it shows us the file. Okay, we have to go inside the test directory, or what we can do is we can do a dir and /test, and we can see the file has been created. So I do not want this. In that case, I can do is remove item. I can provide test and I can provide the file name. So now if I see, it's not available. So that's about how to run PowerShell commandlet, and then behavior of commandlets vary depending on the parameters passed. A parameter object will be processed by the commandlet and relevant results will be sent to the pipeline. So what is the meaning of this statement is whatever I have showed you already is if you do not provide the type here, I mean if you provide a type as directory, it is going to create a directory. So that's how, depending on the parameter, the the commandlet is going to commandlet is going to change its functionality. So when I pass the type parameter as a file, it created a file. If I pass the type as directory, it creates a directory. That's what I mean. The behavior of the commandlets vary depending on the parameters passed, but the main functionality remains. It is going to create a new item. Then, as I have already shown you, all standard PowerShell commandlets use the verb noun syntax, and as per PowerShell best practices, you should use the standard verbs. So how do you know what are the standard verbs which are available? So then you can run this command get verb, and it lists out all the PowerShell verbs, standard verbs that you can use whenever you are creating a new function or new commandlet. That is an advanced concept. When we complete the basics, I will show you how to create functions, and they can be used similar to how we use the commandlets. Then a very important concept in PowerShell is pipeline, and pipelines are used to pass an object that is output of a command to the input of the next command in a serialized manner. Objects are deserialized and processed in the pipeline. So when you pass an object to the pipeline, the next command in the pipeline receives the input from the previous command, and it processes the object. So let's see some details about pipeline. So this is how the pipeline character looks like, and what we are doing here in this is just a symbolic example. There is an object, I'm passing it to the pipeline, and next command, if it has the ability to read from the pipeline, it is going to process this object and then send the output to the next pipeline. And when you don't have anything at the end of the pipeline, it is going to send it to your screen. So first command and next command, so on, you can pipe multiple commandlets, and finally, if you don't provide right output, PowerShell is going to write the output to the screen. So for every command, you can see I just ran the get verb command here, but but the results appeared on the screen. That is because by default every commandlet is appended with the right output command. So the result is same when I don't use the right output command, or when I use it, or if I don't use it. By default PowerShell will append right output at the end, and it will output the results to your screen. And some simple example, let's look at a simple example. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write this some text to a file that we are going to create in the directory. So let me copy this and paste this, and I have to use the force. No, okay. Okay, I have an error here. Let me correct it. Okay, now let's move inside the test directory, and we have the PowerShell notes 2 created here that we just created using this command. What it is doing is it is passing some text to the pipeline, and out file by default is reading this text and it is writing it to this particular file here. So what I can do is I'm already in that directory, so I can specify the name of the text file, and you can see some text has been written. So just to show you again, let me clear everything which is in this directory. So now I don't have anything here, and I'm going to run this command again. Okay, now I'm inside the directory and I'm trying to create another, I'm trying to output it to another directory. That's why it's not working. So I have to use the same path, and now we should have that data right over here. Okay, that's about it in the first session of PowerShell. We'll see you in the next session, and if you have any queries regarding this session, please let me know. Thank you.